I know our audience is very, very keen to speak with you as well, so I want to, of course, welcome you back to India. The mantra all those years ago when I was in the gym hitting the weights was no pain, no gain. Obviously, you can see I didn't take as much pain as I should have, but I'll work at it from now on. I'm feeling a little more inspired. But let me ask you, when you look at the world, I'm going to start with bodybuilding just because it's a particular interest. When you look at the way the bodybuilding world has become so scientific, it's become such almost like a formulaic industry in some ways. Has the magic gone from that time when you were there in the gym?
Well, I think that the rules are still the same. If it is in bodybuilding or if it is in anything else, you have to have a very clear vision of where you want to go in your career. You cannot get into bodybuilding and think that just by exercising every day, that by accident you're just going to be a world champion. As I said earlier, you have to have a very clear vision and you have to see it in front of you. And then you got to go and shoot for the stars. The bigger you shoot, the further you go. I had a very clear vision of becoming another Reg Park. Reg Park was my idol. Those that don't know who Reg Park was, he was a Mr. Universe in 1951 and 58 and in 1965. Three-time Mr. Universe. And then he became the star of Hercules movies. And I happened to see his cover on a magazine when I was in Graz in Austria. And I bought that magazine, and there was literally the blueprint. I remember that cover shot that said, Mr. Universe becomes Hercules star. And there was the blueprint on how he trained, how he won his Mr. Universe titles, how he made his move in the movies, and how he then did this money, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he made then in the 50s and 60s from the Hercules movies, and bought gymnasiums, a chain of gymnasiums in South Africa, and became a very successful businessman. So for me, this was the blueprint. So I immediately had a clear vision that I want to be another Reg Park, that I want to be in London winning the Mr. Universe contest. I saw myself with the trophy in the hand. I saw hundreds of bodybuilders around me looking up at me, idolizing me, and thousands of people up there cheering and standing ovation. That's what I saw. And exactly 5 years later, with 5-6 hours of training like a fanatic, I was standing on that stage in London, and I won the Mr. Universe contest with the age of 20 as the youngest Mr. Universe ever. So that teaches you right away a lesson, because the lesson was for me, you got to have a clear vision and then go after that vision. Why is that important? Because it brings joy to you. Every set that I did, every rep that I did, every 500 pounds I lifted, every 1,000 sit-ups that I did brought me joy, because it took me one step closer to turning that vision into reality. So many people don't enjoy their jobs. In America, for instance, in the latest study, it said that 74% of the people in America don't enjoy their jobs. Now imagine, you work all year and all your life, and you don't enjoy your job. This is because they didn't have a vision in the first place. That's why I say always to young kids, before you go out after college or before college or whatever, think about it, what you really want to do. Don't listen to your parents, don't listen to your coaches and to your mentors and all of those things. You can listen to them, but in the end, you have to make the decision. Because I tell you, my parents had no interest in bodybuilding at all. My mother and my father wanted me to have the regular Austrian life. They wanted me to follow my father's footsteps and become a police officer. They wanted me to marry a girl by the name of Heidi and have 5 kids, and then be like the Van Trapp family in The Sound of Music or something like that. So, but that's not the life that I wanted. I wanted to go to America. I wanted to be a world champion in bodybuilding. I wanted to get into movies and be a movie star and all this. They didn't understand that, and they were totally against all of that.
Your understanding of psychology, your application of psychology is fascinating. I remember reading that, of course, in those days, a lot of it was about the arms and shoulders and being big. And that one day in the gym, apparently, when they saw that your calves weren't as big as the rest of you, people commented you went and cut the trousers at the knee. So when you walked around, people would comment more, so it would force you to do those extra reps when you got to the gym.
Well, because I think that we have to work on our weak points. And we have to expose our weak points so that you're embarrassed about it and that you do something about it. And so the idea was, since my weak point was calves, because you're supposed to have the calf measurement the same as the bicep measurement. So my biceps were 21 inches at that point. So my calves supposed to be 21 inches, but they only were 19. So therefore, I had to go and start training with 1,000 pounds to do calf raises and to do it every day and to do 20, 25 sets. And at the end, I had like 5-6 guys sitting on my back and doing donkey raises and all that. I became a fanatic about that. But that's the only way to really win, because you got to look at the body, not just like who has the biggest body and the most muscles, that doesn't mean anything. What means something is that your posing presentation on the stage is eloquent and it fits to your body, and that you have symmetry, and that you have proportions, and that you have muscle separation, and also the musculature on your body. That together makes you win, and also your whole presentation of acting like a winner up there. And so my goal was to be the greatest bodybuilder of all times. I won 13 world bodybuilding championships from the time I began. And then my goal was not only to win the bodybuilding championships and become the greatest bodybuilder, but it was always interesting for me, how can I take that fame and that name now and everything, that power, and then create a crusade. And that's why I got involved in that bodybuilding and in that fitness crusade to promote health and fitness around the world. And I was even appointed by President Bush to be then the czar, the fitness czar in America, to be the chairman of the President's Council on Fitness. And we were very successful in this last 40 years with that fitness crusade, because as you know, today, there are more gymnasiums in the world than ever before. Every military station has a gymnasium, every fire station, every police station, every university, every high school, every hotel. Any hotel you go anywhere in the world now has a gymnasium. And I said in the 60s, one day we will have, and I will work towards that we will have as many gymnasiums and health clubs as we have supermarkets. So for every time you take a calorie in, you have a place to go where you burn a calorie off. That was the idea. And now we have more, in America, more gymnasiums than we have supermarkets.
And yet Governor, we have in India, there was a report I was watching on TV just the other day about how globally it's a problem, the obesity levels, the junk food, the way people are eating. I mean, that must concern you quite a lot as well.
Oh, absolutely. This is why it is so important that we teach people and that we educate people how to eat and to exercise every day. It's not something that you do 3 times a week. I mean, 3 times a week is better than nothing, but don't be fooled. I mean, exercise is part of life. It's like sleeping and eating and sex and all of those things that we do all the time. I think this is the same with exercising. You got to do it every day, and that's how you stay in shape, and that's how you stay fit. I tell you that I train every day, and this is why I am always ready. When I do a movie, it takes me 2 months to really get ready and to fine-tune the body, but I'm almost always ready to go for a movie, including Terminator, which we just finished, or Conan the Barbarian that we're going to do down the line. So all of those movies are very physical movies, and I always want to be ready. That's why exercising every day is very important.
Everyone's desperate to talk with you, but I want to get one last question from myself before I open it up. And that's really, I asked you about the magic going from bodybuilding. What about politics? I mean, you were there at the top of politics with the governorship in California. But we see in America, it seems to be just, one party fighting the other. Do you feel the magic has gone from politics too?
No, I think the history in America, it was, where one party always fights the other. And every so often, we had great leaders come in and bring both of the parties together. As you know, my political beliefs are that in the end, you have to represent the people, not your party. I always tell politicians that they must be public servants and not party servants. And this is what my institute at USC is all about, is good government practice, political reform. And in California, because we had the Democratic Party being so far to the left and the Republican Party so far to the right, we created political reform. We passed the open primary initiative, and we did the redistricting. Because in America, the political system, the way it is right now with the districting, it is a fixed system, and it is fixed for the incumbents. Those that are sitting in there, you cannot get out. And this is exactly what is wrong in politics. We got to get out the old-timers that are just sitting there and taking that for granted. We got to get new blood in there, and we got to get people in there that are more in the center or that are willing to negotiate to the center, because it always takes both parties to make major decisions. And in California, that is what we have accomplished, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of, is the political reforms to bring people to the center. And now Democrats and Republicans in California are much more in the center and therefore getting much more done.
Well, so I'm going to open it up because I know everyone is keen to speak with you here, and I ask you to put your hands up. I will try to get to them in the order in which I see them. Gentleman there is first. We'll get your microphone, and I see you at the back, sir, as well.
Morning, Governor. My name is Nello. 2 questions, but very short ones. One is, you look a lot younger than Sylvester Stallone. What's the secret? The second is...
Was this a question?
Yeah. The secret. The second is, You represent a state where there are a substantial number of Indians, at least in the IT industry, the medical industry, in the hospital industry. Are you likely to be here on the 26th of January 2015?
Am I interested?
Interested in being on the
26th of January 2015. That's the Republic Day of India, and I think President Obama is going to be here.
Oh, when President Obama comes over.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, let me just say, about Sylvester Stallone, I'm not going to tell him what you said, even though I'm going to see him tonight, because we're going to meet up in Macau watching the fight with Bakhtiar, which is a major boxing fight. If you don't have anything to do tonight, watch that. It's going to be very interesting. So that's number one. Number two, I fought with Sylvester Stallone for a decade in the 80s. It was all-out war. We hated each other. Because we were both in the same business and we wanted to outdo each other, and there was like a competition of who has the most muscles, who has the most definition, who has the least amount of body fat, who kills the most people on the screen, who kills them the most unique way, who makes more money at the box office, who makes more money for salaries and all of those things. It was war straight all the way through. And then finally in the early 90s, we became kind of friends. And ever since then, we have been friends, and we admire each other. It was just one of the things where you needed a competitor, someone that you hate, to unseat, because that's what drives me. I'm a competitive person, so I had to kind of put his picture up there and say, he's the enemy, I got to destroy him, I got to overcome this obstacle here, I want to be number one, and we got to get rid of Sylvester Stallone. And he, of course, being very competitive, also felt the same way, and he said, I got to get rid of Schwarzenegger, and we got to send him back to Austria, and so all of that was going on, and then finally we were old enough and mature enough and smart enough to say, wait a minute, let's just stop this, and we got together, and then we were together partners actually in a Planet Hollywood restaurant chain, and then we have been doing movies together, as you know, in every expendable in India, and we have been having a great time working together.
Gentleman at the very back, and then I'll get to the front here as well. But yeah, the one at the very back. Keep your hand up and we'll get the microphone to you.
Welcome to India, Mr. Arnold. My name is Sanjay. A short question. Have you ever come across a fan of yours who has watched Commando 200 times?
I have met a lot of fans that have seen my movies many times. Commando, Terminator, or Junior, where I was a pregnant man, or any of those movies. I'm very happy always when I have big fans like that, so thank you very much.
And is my son. He has watched 200 times Commando. He's
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Get the microphone here. This gentleman at the front, please. We'll come to you in a moment. Yeah, see you.
Governor Arnold, question for you. First question. What can the United States learn from the reforms you got in California, which were your efforts? And second question, based on motivation. You have the enthusiasm, you have the motivation to start something or a drive or a dream, but you may realize somewhere in the middle you might run out of steam. So how do you keep yourself motivated?
So the first question was, how could the Californian experience be used elsewhere in the States?
Country.
Well, first is we are with some of the good government groups working together with our institute that I have at the University of Southern California, which is the Schwarzenegger Institute, that deals with those kind of issues, to do this nationwide. It's very, very difficult to do because only some of the states have a process where you can go directly to the people, an initiative process, like in California. The legislators had no interest in doing that. The legislators wanted to keep the system, the status quo, because they wanted to stay in office. So now, because the system has changed, a lot of them have lost their jobs, and more moderate people came in. So, of course, in other states where there is no initiative process, the legislators, the conservatives and the liberals, in that issue, they get together and they fight together to not have any changes. So only in states where there's an initiative process you can actually go there, or you can sue and go to the court and say, this is not a fair system the way the district lines were drawn. They were drawn to be fixed for the Republicans and fixed for the Democrats, so you can't get the incumbent out of office. And then the court can intervene and go and make a decision like that, which also has happened. So it is a difficult process, but it is not something that can't be done. It's just very, very difficult, and we are pushing forward with that because it is inexcusable to have this what they call gerrymandering all over the United States. So this is number one. I am always interested in creating a political system that is good for the people and not so good for the parties, because I don't care about the parties. The parties are necessary, but in the end, it's the people that count, and this is what I'm doing. And for me, I got involved in the political arena because I always wanted to give something back to America. America was the land of opportunity for me. I came over to America with absolutely nothing, and everything that I've gained, everything that I've achieved is because of America and because of my will. But I mean, America always opened up the doors and said, come on in. And then I had to do the work. I had to have the positive attitude. I had to work like hell 24 hours a day and all of those things. It was up to me. But America gave me the opportunities, and this is why I wanted to give something back. That's why I was involved always in Special Olympics. I was involved with after-school programs and created a whole organization for after-school programs. That's why I got involved in physical fitness and the promotions and traveled through all 50 states in America to promote health and fitness and to create more physical education teachers. And also then eventually I ran for governor. And let me tell you, it was the greatest joy. It was 7 years of hard work, 24 hours a day. But it was the greatest joy to serve the people of California.
And the very quick answer to the second part there, Governor, was how do you keep yourself motivated when you find yourself drifting from that area?
Well, the bottom line is if you keep focused and you can see your goal, then it never should be a big problem, because remember, everyone, no matter how successful you are, you will have failures. Don't ever fool yourself. I have had many failures. Movies that went in the toilet that didn't work well. In my bodybuilding, I lost competitions, and in my personal life, I've had failures. This is what happens. But what makes you a winner is that when you fail, you get up again, and you dust yourself off, and you keep going towards your goal.
Gentleman with the microphone over there, and then we'll move it forward as well.
Good morning, Mr. Schwarzenegger. Unfortunately, you've already answered my question, because it was, how do you truly deal with failure when you internalize it and take it forward? So I'm not going to waste time, and I'm just going to give it to the next person. Unless there's something more you want to add about a time that you truly failed, and you felt that, oh God, I'm so embarrassed about this, and you just hid away from everything and got up again.
Well, I just want to tell you one example. When I came to the United States in 1968, I competed I was two-time Mr. Universe at that point already. And I competed in the Mr. Universe in Miami, Florida. And I was beaten. I came second. Here I was in a new country. I didn't know anybody. I barely spoke the English language. I was in this strange little hotel. And I just lost the competition. I cried all night. I was this 21-year-old kid, and I was crying all night. But then eventually I got back again and kept thinking about, what am I doing in America? I'm here to beat all of the American bodybuilders. I'm here to beat all of the bodybuilders all over the world. So let's get our act together. There will be payback time. And I did exactly that. I moved to California. I trained 5-6 hours a day with the American champions. Watched them very carefully how they train and beat them in their own game. The following year I came back, won that Mr. Universe contest, won the Mr. Olympia the next year after that, and then for 7 years won the Mr. Olympia competition, and no one ever beat me again. So, as I said earlier, we all fail. The key thing is to keep in mind what is your goal and keep looking at that as you get up and dust yourself off. Okay?
So we go here next, then we come to there, and I'll move it back to you. Thank you.
You've reached the top in 3 different careers, and you've talked about some common elements of drive, hunger, 100% commitment to reach success in these 3 careers. My question is, in your political career, is there something unique or different where hunger and commitment and drive is not enough? And if you look back at your political career, would you do anything differently?
No, I think that I figured out through sports what are the key elements to be successful. And as I said earlier, you got to have a big vision. You got to dream big, because this is the only way you're going to get to the top. We don't get to the top by accident. And the second thing is don't be afraid to fail, which we just talked about it earlier. The other thing is that work your butt off. It is so important that you work your butt off. Don't ever look for shortcuts. You have to recognize that there are 24 hours a day. We sleep 6 hours a day. And I know there's some of you that say, wait a minute, I take more time to sleep. I say, just sleep faster, okay? Because you should only spend 6 hours in bed, because otherwise it's a waste of time. And then you have 18 hours left. Most people work, let's say, 8 or 10 hours. So now you still have 8 hours left. What do we do with these 8 hours is really the question. So this is when we have to study and learn something new. When I was in the early 70s, I went to acting class. I went to college to get my degree. I was working out 5 hours a day, and I was doing construction work all at the same time. I literally used the 24 hours, and this is what made me successful. So this is another rule. Work your butt off. And then here's another important one that I learned very quickly, and that is don't listen to the naysayers. The bigger your goal is, and then when you tell people that I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, immediately if someone says, that can't be done, come on, are you crazy? And I heard that when I was 15 years old, when I said I want to be a bodybuilding champion in Austria, that everyone said to me, the school teachers, the coaches, my parents, everyone says, that's an American sport. In Austria, you become a ski champion or bicycle champion or track and field champion, but not a bodybuilding champion. Stop, Arnold. This is crazy. You're insane. But I didn't listen. The same was in acting. They said to me when I was finished with my bodybuilding career and went into acting and met with studio executives and with agents, they immediately said to me, it will never work. I mean, first of all, look at your body. You weigh 250 pounds. I mean, do you know who the hot actors are now in the 70s? Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Woody Allen. Those are the sex symbols. Not you. I mean, they weigh 150 pounds. Not you. Look at this 250. I mean, Hercules movies were done in the past 10, 20 years ago. You will never make it. It won't happen. Plus, you have an accent. People want to hear John Wayne talk, not an Austrian accent. Yeah, maybe we can get you some parts as a Nazi officer or something like that, but you can't get to be a leading man. And then, yeah, the name, I mean, yeah, sure, I can see Schwarzenegger. Yeah, everyone is going to run into the theater when they see that name on the poster. That's what they said. He says, forget it. Don't do it. And you know something? When I then got into it, I was very determined, and I said, I'm going to work exactly as much as I did on bodybuilding. I'm going to spend 6 hours a day on accent removal classes and speech classes, English classes, and all of those things, acting classes, everything. And it worked. Slowly I started getting parts with Lucille Ball and Art Carney, and then I was doing a movie, Streets of San Francisco, the TV show, then Stay Hungry, then I won the Golden Globe for Stay Hungry as for Best Acting Debut, then I did Pumping Iron, and then all of a sudden it was Conan the Barbarian. Here was my first movie with $20 million they spent on that movie. It was the first big international movie that Universal Studio did, and Dino De Laurentiis directing and Dino De Laurentiis producing and John Milius directing. And after we did Conan and it came out and it was #1 at the box office, that's when all of a sudden the director said, if we wouldn't have had Schwarzenegger, we would have had to build one. Why? Because of my body. Because that's exactly what they needed for Conan, was a muscular, huge body. That's why I got the job, because I had the acting and the body. Otherwise, they could have never done the movie. So all of a sudden, the body that the agents and the studio executives said would be a no-no, and that's why I would never get a job, and that's why I would never be a star. All of a sudden, it was a big asset. And then when we did Terminator, Jim Cameron said what worked with Arnold playing Terminator was because he talked like a machine. He has this German accent. He says if we wouldn't have had that, the line, I'll be back, would have never worked. So as you can see, you take those obstacles and you take those no's that people say, no, it won't happen. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to them. Just plow ahead, have your clear vision, and just overcome those obstacles. So those are kind of the basic rules that you have to have. And the other rule that I want to mention that I think that are very important to success is give something back. Don't ever think just about yourself. Think about your community, and think always about that there's people out there that are less fortunate than you, not less fortunate just financially, but also mentally. There's people maybe in Special Olympics, people that are intellectually challenged, people that maybe don't know how to read, that you can sit there with them for an hour every day and read to them and teach them how to read. There's something that each and every one of us can do to help our neighborhood, to help our state, our province, or our country. And I think this is an absolute crucial thing, is to give something back.
Thank you. The gentleman who's, I think, further back, who had his hand up. Was the gentleman further had his hand up there? No? Okay, well, please take the microphone then, yeah.
Firstly, just wanted to say you're awesome. You've been an inspiration for the longest time, so it's a thrill to see you. You mentioned about the environment when you walked in. We have a serious air quality problem in Delhi. Don't know if you have any comments around that, any solutions, suggestions?
Yeah, about the issue of the environment, air quality, any solutions and suggestions, especially in India here is an issue.
I think that the environment is extremely important that we protect. And it doesn't matter what country that you're in. We all must work together, because remember, we're talking about global climate change. It's not Indian climate change or Chinese climate change or American climate change or Brazilian climate change. It's global climate change. We see globally the climate changing because of the emission of greenhouse gases. This last year alone, 40 billion tons more greenhouse gases were released, and we are really destroying our world. And so the only way that we can really reverse that is if we all recognize that fossil fuels are the destruction of the world. And so we have to get off fossil fuels as quickly as possible. Now, every country is trying to do their best, because it's a very challenging thing. As I've talked to one of your political leaders yesterday, I mean, they made it very clear that to just get off coal in India is such a political hot button, you know, that it's very hard to take people out of their coal mines and say, okay, you cannot do any more mining. Well, how are they going to make a living? How are they going to have a job? So it takes to retrain these people for a whole new industry. All of that takes time. But the key thing is that you got to start working now, because we got to take this seriously, this whole thing. And this is why I am on an environmental crusade. That's why I've created the R20, which is an environmental organization to inspire countries, and not just countries, but specifically subnational governments. Because we should not wait for the national governments to create action. We should, as subnational governments, cities and states and provinces, should already create the action. We in California did not pay any attention to Washington, because we felt like we were running against the wall. As a matter of fact, the federal government told us that greenhouse gases is not a pollutant. The federal government in Washington told us that it was like wild, that the head of the EPA said it's not a pollutant. We went to court and sued them as state of California. And we won in the Supreme Court, took it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, greenhouse gases are a pollutant, and California therefore has the right to control its own air pollution. And I said to myself, well, hello, I think there would have been a much easier way to go. Instead of having to take it to the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, we could have just connected all those politicians that didn't believe in emissions being greenhouse gases and being a pollutant. We could have hooked them up to an exhaust pipe in a car, and they quickly would have learned that it is a pollutant, you know what I'm saying? But that was a more drastic way of proving the point. So the courts was probably an easier way and the more American way to do it. But the bottom line is it's really crazy that people still that deny us there is climate change. And they deny us that we are polluting the world and all those things. So we have to fight through all that in my organization, in other organizations out there. And like, for instance, when we talk about individual power and states and provinces having power, look at Dr. Pachauri. But Dr. Pachauri made a decision. That's why he won also the Nobel Peace Prize. But he made a decision that he's not going to wait for the federal government, for India to make the changes. He wants to help and inspire India to make the changes, but in the meantime, he made a commitment that he wants to have 1 billion people get off, those kerosene lamps and then have their own little solar and so they can produce their own energy and heating and light and all of those things without polluting the world. So those are the kind of things. So individuals have taken up the slack and have started to fight. So that's what we have to do. Each and every one of us has the responsibility to do something about that. And I will be, I know, as successful with the environmental crusade as I've been with the fitness crusade. But we got to go and work together on all of this. Thank you.
I'm trying to get the hands in the order in their way up, so please do forgive me. We're so short on time. This gentleman has the microphone next, and please bear with me. I'm trying to get to all the hands I can.
Thank you, sir, for being such an inspiration for all of us. Quick question. You mentioned bodybuilding, Hollywood, and then governorship. What are the reasons why you chose bodybuilding instead of, say, soccer or boxing? Why Hollywood? Why not NBA? Why not corporate? Could you share some insights on what went behind that? And secondly, a request. I know you just said this, but before you leave, since you're coming back in Feb, could we hear those 4 words in true Terminator fashion before you leave?
So first of all, let me just say that the reason why I picked bodybuilding was because I was trying all the other sports that you mentioned, if it is soccer, if it is bicycling, if it is track and field and all those things. And I think that the trick is always to find what were you meant for. And so I was not meant for that. I was not fast enough to be the soccer player. I was not, I didn't have endurance enough to be the bicycle racer and all that. So I realized when I joined the gymnasium and I started lifting weights that my body responded very quickly. And I was asked with the age of 16 to join the weightlifting team to compete against other cities. So I was the youngest member of the weightlifting team. All the others were like in their 20s and 30s. So I realized that this is my potential. Not only that I got good in weightlifting, but my body responded very quickly. And my biceps started growing, my deltoid started growing, the pectoral muscle, everything started responding very quickly. So I realized this is where my potential lies. And then I picked up this magazine with Reg Park on the cover, and I connected the two, and I went after that then, all with 100% of my passion and my energy and everything like that. So that it just all happened to fall in place, and I wanted to find a way to go to America because I didn't want to stay in Austria. So I felt like picking an American sport that will eventually bring me to America. And sure enough, at the age of 21, I got an invitation from the publisher of the Muscle magazines, Muscle and Fitness, from Joe Weider. And he brought me to America, and finally my dream that I had about somehow sports is going to get me to America became a reality. So this is why I picked bodybuilding. And the thing with acting was because Reg Park got into movies, in the Hercules movies through his bodybuilding. So I said to myself, maybe I could also do that and make those millions of dollars and be a big star and be, rich and famous and all, the things that kids dream of. But some kids dream of that, but my dream was really all out serious. I mean, it was like there was no slipping back or that it's maybe a dream and that we never get there. I would have done anything, no matter how much work it takes, to get there and to make that dream also become a reality. And with the governorship, it was very simple because I said I wanted to give something back. And we had the recall election where California recalled the governor, which was Governor Davis, because his approval rating was down and they were not happy with the job that he was doing. And so I saw an opening. I just finished the Terminator 3 promotion. And all of a sudden they announced the recall election. And I went on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and I announced my candidacy on the Tonight Show rather than having the regular press conference that usually politicians do. And I ran, and 2 months later, the people of California elected me to be governor, which was something, again, that everyone said would never happen. Don't do it. It's going to be a big mistake because California, we have 60% voters are Democrats and 40% Republicans, and I'm a Republican. So how do you win? But I didn't see this as an obstacle. I said to myself, I'm going to go and reach out to the people and explain to them what my agenda is going to be and what I'm trying to accomplish. That I'm not running as a Republican only, but I want to bring both parties together, and I want to represent everybody in California. And the people bought in. And I won the election, and I did bring both of the parties together, and we achieved a lot. Of course, you never achieve everything. That doesn't happen in politics or in anything else in life, that you achieve everything. But we achieved a lot of things, and I was very happy to be able to serve the people.
On the issue of politics, very briefly, is that it for you, or will you be back?
Well, right now I'm doing movies again, and I'm concentrating on my environmental organization and promote the environment, to do public speeches around the world, to concentrate on my USC Schwarzenegger Institute, and to promote the Arnold Classic, which is the World Championships in bodybuilding and the biggest sports and fitness festival. We have it now in North America, South America, Europe, and the first time in Australia. Then we were going to go to Asia, and then also to Africa. So this is all part of the overall health and fitness promotion. And so I'm very busy with all of those things. I don't think about the politics as running for office, because, as I said, the presidency is not available because of the Constitution, and I don't see myself as one of the 100 senators sitting there in Washington. And so I think I can have more effect on things being on the outside and using my celebrity power rather than being a politician sitting in Washington.
Well, Governor, so terrible, we've run out of time. Everyone would like to hear it. Certainly as far as India, you can say you'll be back.
Well, first of all, let me just say that you are in a great country. I have come to India now several times because of show business, promoting health and fitness, and for movies, and especially for environmental reasons. Like I said, Dr. Pachauri, who is running who is one of the great environmental leaders of the world, has invited me in the past to come here in this hotel here. As a matter of fact, it was in this room here to hold a speech at his environmental conference. This coming February, I'll be back. I will be back for another environmental conference that will be very, very important. And I think, like I said, you have a great country, the country that has a great GDP growth. People are working very hard. They're very talented in so many different areas. And I hope that, I can come back as many times as possible, and that I always get this great kind of a reception. I love coming back to your country. So thank you very much, and I'll be back.